Hi, I'm Christine Conrad, and I am a professional that has over a decade of experience in different industries. And I have the privilege to interview a gentleman who is a second time award winning author of two very popular books, which I will let him discuss what they are. And he has, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 decades of experience. Bill Miller. Thank you, Bill, for joining me today. I'm excited to kind of pick your brain.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Christine. And yeah, 5 decades. That's over 50 years of this technology
That's
stuff, going back to mainframes and the in what used to be called, God, computer rooms, not data centers. Anyway, I'm in the hopefully final phase of my career, uh, which sometimes I call semi-retirement, and sometimes I'm busier than I used to be. So, uh, I have my own little consulting company and publishing company, of which I published my book under. And right now, I live in Bristol, Connecticut, right next to ESPN. And it's interesting to see all those
yeah,
satellites over there because that's all technology. But during my 50 years, I worked for startup companies in Silicon Valley, startup companies here in Connecticut, large multi-billion dollar corporations like Fujitsu and Rockwell. uh, Fujitsu being global, where when I was in the US, I was international. Think about that. Because you work for a large company and you're domestic, think about your international people. So I was the international guy, and we had to localize the products that came from Japan. So that's the type of experience I bring. A lot of it is in the voice and IP world. Um, so think 3Com, Fujitsu, Digium, which is open source, Freedom Voice, hosted UCAS, Rockwell, and many other companies. And I've been around through many changes of technology, which is technology is really my passion. But
yeah,
um, think about um, all those years and all those experiences, always working on new unreleased products. I was an
yeah.
engineer by degree, and I was a software developer for many, many years before I moved to the dark side of marketing and sales, and
Yeah. My side
which
over
are
to my side.
over to your side. But that's many, many
Yeah,
years ago. That happened back in the 80s.
yeah.
And, I went through the mainframe to mini computers to PCs, PCs to laptops, laptops to tablets and cell phones. Think about all this
Yeah,
technology.
I mean, I remember in elementary school, we had like the big Macs that were like a tiny screen and like the processor was the size of the desk. And I remember playing Oregon Trail on it and like learning how to type on a keyboard. I was like, what is this?
Hmm.
This is and then with cell phones, I never got didn't get I wasn't privileged to get like a T-Mobile Sidekick. I got like my mom's Motorola like first cell phone. I forgot what the name of it was, but yeah, like I wasn't awesome at T9, but like we didn't get the BlackBerry keyboards yet or the Bluetooth. Like that wasn't in until probably when I was paying for school for college. So, I mean, for you to say the transitions of each, I guess,
Right.
evolution of tech is, I think, is so great because you can always read about it, you can always watch things, listen, but like to actually ask someone who's experienced is like way better. So, um, so I guess you kind of answered a couple of my just initial questions, but like what makes your heart sing about having that much of experience? Like what like out of everything you just said, what makes Bill Miller's heart sing?
Well, since everything that I've done since seventh grade, which goes back to the 60s, it's it's all technology. The hottest thing today and most interesting thing, of course, is all the new AI enabled technology. So, uh, the end of last year started playing around with ChatGPT, and now there's new toys every day. Um, when you're when you have the decades of experience, you think about where we've come from and where we've gone to, and the computing power that's required to operate, to build these large models for for AI and ChatGPT and Bard and all these other ones. You
Yeah.
couldn't even you couldn't have a computer center large enough way back in the early days to do that. The government had a network of computers way back in the 60s, and they were connected over what was called NSFNet and ARPANET, which was the first implementation of IP, for example, TCP IP. I think about all of that stuff, and today it's just like automatic. It just all works.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and
And but the
that's
thing is, yeah, it's crazy. But the thing is, not to cut you off, but I just want to say like from the evolution, I take things for granted nowadays. Like
all right.
from like the efficiency and the speed of things today, it's like listening to you, I'm like my patience is like this much. So like the fact that like I mean, anyways, yeah, sorry. Keep going. It's crazy. It's
Well, if you
crazy.
think about what I think about is all those years, the emerging communications technology from the old original stuff to X25 to, proprietary LANs before Ethernet. And then I was an Ethernet product manager, so launched Ethernet into the world. And that kind of stuff was all the foundation for where all of today's networks and the internet came from. I was working in selling networking adapter cards, for example, and terminal servers and things like that when Ethernet came out, which was the kind of the foundation for all of the stuff that we do today. So that from desktops and laptops and phones, you just jump on the internet. In the old days, you couldn't do that. There were no browsers. It was all kind of kludgy, but that's how we
I
all worked.
yeah.
Think about that.
I I mean, yeah, no, I mean, like me being, I always say like I joke middle-aged millennial, right? Because it's like I'm not I'm not a 95er, but I'm also not like an 80. I think it's like 84. I don't know, math. Don't quote me, but it's just like I was around kind of the digital boom per se, but like I wasn't
Hmm.
old enough to like grasp that it's like the fact that you could just go to Google or the fact that you could just go to a browser and I don't
Yeah,
know, just like the fact that you had information at your fingertips is just like to me, I didn't I'm like, yeah, just go look it up. And like people had to go to the library, people had to read books, people had to like, you
yeah.
know what I mean? It's like when you did research papers, it's like you didn't have like the friend Google around to like quickly look it up, right? You know, or like how to
That is
change
true.
your oil. Like even like changing my oil, I all I had to do was go on YouTube and look up how do you change oil, and it was like,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
it
I
wasn't
think
easy, but I looked it up.
many of us still do. I mean, a lot of us use YouTube today. If you want to learn how to
Mhm,
change a disposal, you go onto YouTube, take a look at,
mhm.
the brand you want to put in, and it'll show you, in 15, 20 minutes, you can see how to change that, how to, change a door lock. I mean, whatever it is, you just go there. I think in the future, we'll be, that stuff will be all integrated with AI. I'm sure they're all working on it now. But you don't have to use Google the same way as you used to because you just type in your question to ChatGPT, and if you want the references, you can ask for the URLs in your prompts, and it'll give you everything that you're really looking for without having millions of responses that don't apply. So that stuff is kind of interesting. But even though I'm a technology guy working for all those companies, around the '98 timeframe, uh, I had worked my way up to vice president level, business unit general manager and vice president. And what happened was I worked for 9 rookie CEOs in a row. And
Oh
back
wow.
in that time frame, I started taking notes in every meeting, uh, so that I'd remember everything, and I dated everything. Made notes for who was in the meetings, what did we talk about, and because I was not in engineering then, I didn't have
Yeah.
engineering notebooks. All of my notebooks were my own property. So I had decided uh, back in '98, '99 timeframe, based on the crazy things that the first rookie CEO in my book and the second were doing, I decided I was going to write a book called The Rookie CEO eventually when I retired or something, some event happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was still working full time here in Connecticut, for at that point in time, I'd say a mid-stage startup, which is why I
Hmm.
came to Connecticut from Texas, and that was my ninth rookie CEO in a row, of which I had books and books and books of history. And it was time for me when I got laid off in March of 2020. I started writing my book 1 week later. And by October 2020, I had published my first book, which is this one. All right. The Ricky CEO. You can't make this stuff up. And surprisingly, it won 2 awards. Now, the first one was the best CEO book of 2021 for beginning CEOs, for first time CEOs, by a company called Book Authority. Didn't know who they were. They just sent me an email. Well, you're getting this award. Here's all the marketing materials. So I was able to do that. The second one was American Book Fest Award. It was a finalist in the business category, business and entrepreneur category. And I did enter the book in a contest of millions of books,
Yeah.
and it was picked as one of the top 5 finalists. So that was pretty exciting,
Wow.
considering I was never an author before, at least not a book author.
Yeah.
But writing about CEOs in this new phase of my life, I became a consultant and an
Hmm.
advisor for CEOs. There's a lead magnet in the book saying if you want to work with me, email me at my author. My email for that book is Bill at Bill Miller, the CEO guy.com. Right. So in that particular case, I get people that ask me if they could work with me. So I've been working with CEOs, uh, for about a year or so. Today I'm an advisor to 3 small company CEOs,
Wow.
and I'm working on my second book now. It's not published yet, but it's about the top mistakes that CEOs make, how to avoid them if you haven't made them yet, and how to recover if you had. So that book is in process for hopefully for publication later this year. So staying focused on CEOs, leaders can
Yeah.
also you can learn a lot. My rookie CEO book is also excellent for aspiring CEOs because you learn a lot about what it's like behind the scenes, because they're all firsthand stories that are directly related to what it's like in these companies of all sizes. Because I've worked in companies from the employee number 8 in a Silicon Valley startup with no revenues to $44 billion multinationals. So there you go.
Wow. Yeah, and you can, and I bought your book on tape because I had
Okay.
we had crossed paths at the IT Expo, not this past year, but the year prior, and
Right.
I did buy it, and yeah, it was, again, I love to learn about people, just experiences and past mistakes so I can learn. I mean, obviously I'm not going to promise that it's not going to happen. Like, you try not to make it happen, but yeah, I think even if you're not even being, if you're not going to want to be a CEO, or you just want to like sharpen leadership skills, I think it's a really great
Mm-hmm.
tool to use because it comes from experience
Mm-hmm.
and what you paid attention to. Because I think observations and self-reflection, I think you, again, I should say, you should say this, but every Friday you have a CEO tip, right? You have
That's
I
right.
mean, I notice it because I pay attention, and I want to learn and sharpen my toolkit, right? My leadership toolkit. And
Yeah.
I think, again, the fact that you were able to observe and pay attention and write it down is huge, because I
Mm-hmm.
think we get involved in situations where, like, that didn't go well. Not sure why, but that didn't go well, and we forget to write it down. And so the fact that
Yeah.
you're able to do that and help others, you're making the world a better place, because there is a lot of blind spots
Mm-hmm.
for leaders. And sometimes, as much as we think that we have so much experience in some, even me in sales and marketing, right? I have so much, but it's like, I'm like,
Right.
oh, I should humble myself. Like, I should know better. So I'm going to take a step back and eat some humble pie. So, um, and after this, I'll put the link to your book too for people to purchase. Check it
Okay, that'd be
out.
great.
Preview. Yeah.
So you bring up a good point. In my consulting and advisory services for these first-time CEOs, I kind of focus on their blind spots. Everybody, I don't care who you are in personal life, business life, everybody has a blind spot. But when you're a CEO, and you're a first time CEO of a small company, especially, or a startup, could be a founder, could be post founder, but you could take a company down by making a mistake that you could be helped on. So one of the things I do is I've always been very good at looking ahead and seeing the big picture. If somebody ever asked
Hmm.
me, people have asked me on podcasts, what's your superpower? And basically my answer is the big picture. I see the big picture in
Yeah.
everything that I do, and I try to make sure that I try to stay ahead. And that's learning and experience all the way through my career. But having
Yeah.
been an engineer and then a product manager and marketer, you're always working on unreleased products. So
Hmm.
you're always going out to, new customers, early adopters, early customers, and uh, and trying to help create the positioning and the story and the narrative and all those things.
Yeah.
And those are the things I love to work on. And I help these CEOs do that. And I do everything from some of them, I help them with their contracts, various contracts. I hire them with,
Yeah.
help them with hiring. I help them with their balance sheets. So I'm kind of a generalist in that area, but I really like to focus on helping and advising these CEOs. So from a
Hmm.
technology perspective, it's AI, and from a leadership perspective, I love helping these CEOs, and those are the things that keep me busy today. So,
Yeah. And I think it's most rewarding too, if you think about it. It's like it's a lifetime reward. The fact that you're able
mhm,
to help someone not only be successful, but to help others be successful, I think that's huge. You made a point of hiring, and I think like leaders aren't like they're rarely naturally born, right? Like we
mhm,
gotta work on it every day. You gotta sharpen your skills, and I think a lot of the times people get into leadership positions and they don't think about that's a skill that you need to sharpen because people follow leaders, right? People mimic what leaders do. And I think if you're not a strong one and you're not making quick and the right decisions, it can really, like you said, it can really bring a business down or bring whatever they're
mhm.
working on, which again would be a business. But yeah, I mean,
So there's a couple of other things I do, which are interviewing CEOs. So at IT Expo, for
mhm,
example, where you were on Arnold's panel, I have a panel I've had done it 3 years in a row now called CEO Insights, and I have either three or four guest CEOs, and I interview them and ask them a lot of questions. And the audience, which has been larger than I expected all 3 years,
mhm,
uh, really enjoy these panels because it's personal and it's not about technology, even though they're all technology CEOs. And they
yeah,
share their experiences. How did they become a CEO, and
yeah,
how do they handle some of the challenges? And over the past 3 years, there's questions about you know the pandemic. What did you implement during the pandemic that has
yeah,
stayed with you, right?
yeah,
What did you learn
yeah,
about yourself during the pandemic? And I asked those questions, and it's really kind of interesting to hear these people. But one of the things that I ask them is how do they build their team, and what makes them tick, right? What makes them successful? And the
yeah,
one thing that's consistent all 3 years, plus webinars that I do for the Cloud Voice Alliance, they sponsor a CEO success story webinar that I do, and I ask the same question, and they all give me the same
mhm,
answer, which is a
yeah,
trusted team. You got to hire the right people in the right positions, and you got to trust them. You got to be able to delegate and trust them. And the CEOs, especially rookies who can't let go, and they have to continue to make every decision, and they're the bottleneck in different places, whether it's a budget discussion, a partnership discussion, anything, doesn't matter
yeah,
what it is, website, FAQs, whatever you think about, then they have a problem
mhm,
because they don't trust, they hire these people and they pay them big bucks and then they don't trust them. So the common theme for the people that really are truly successful is that they hire the right team. I've even been able to go far enough to ask them on some occasions, what do you do if you find out you have the wrong person? And
yeah,
some of these guys know that they're being recorded and they don't want to say I fire them. They don't want to say that.
yeah,
but
yeah,
but the fact is, the bottom line is you got to fire fast if you find out you really have the wrong person, they don't fit into your culture, and all of those kinds of things. So uh, when you share my book link, actually, you can share my link tree at the end, in the
Yeah.
notes, and the
Yep.
link tree has links uh, to all of these things, so that some
Yeah.
people can see a lot of my interviews and things like that on my website.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I'll do that right after. So to wrap up, I want to ask you one final question. If
go
you
for
could
it.
have a billboard anywhere, like anywhere, right? What would it
Mhm.
say? What
So
would it say?
okay, so this is a good one. We've talked about this a little bit. So I would say, heads up, everybody. Listen, be curious, learn, and take action. Short, sweet, and that really is something that impacts everybody in business and in life. So you could think about that from your personal relationships to your business relationships to that of a CEO. Because I talk about CEOs need to be always listening and learning and asking questions. That's really how you can find out what's going on in your company without being you know talked about behind your back, right? Talk to people.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if you're in an office or a hybrid environment, talk to people. Get out of your office. It used to be called in the old days management by walking around. Just get out of your office, go talk to people. Go to the
Yeah.
engineers, talk to them and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on down here? Show me what you're doing. People love to talk about and show people what they're doing. And you learn people's first names, and you learn whether they're passionate or not about their company. And those, so that's important. And today
Yeah.
you can get on a video with them and do the same thing. Hey, show me what you're
Yep.
doing. Tell me what you're doing. And you get to know people. And I don't care if it's a large company. Don't sit in your ivory tower. I've been in the ivory tower wing with the cherry desks and offices, and you don't need that. In
Mm-mm.
fact, sometimes in the smaller companies, everybody has a cubicle, even the CEO. It's a philosophy and a culture that you
Yeah.
build on how you do things. So, but I just think if it's a billboard, you want to get attention. So heads up, everybody knows
Look
what
at
that means,
yeah,
right?
yeah, heads up or look at me or something, like action oriented. Yeah, no, so and I like the last thing
Yeah.
you said, just take action. I think I'm an action oriented person. Like I'm like, okay, I have to make a decision and go, right? Like let's move, let's progress. Like I need progress. I need like at the end of the call, I need to be like, hey, what's the action items? I can't talk in circles. Like what are we doing? Like so I do appreciate that because I think a lot of the time people tend to be like, whoa, whoa, let's just sit on it. And it's like, no, you got to go. Like you got like we anyway, so I appreciate that. And anyways, thank you for your time, Bill Miller. It's always a pleasure. And I'll put your link tree and people can learn more about your book and buy it on audio. And we'll talk soon. See you at maybe IT Expo.
You, more than likely.
Okay. See ya.
Thank you.